So this is a game that we've bragged for the last couple years about how good their offense and defensive line. Yesterday, Nick, you talked about how just average to poor the defensive line has played.
Philadelphia's got the second fewest sacks of any team in football this year.
And if you take that offensive line, when you go on the road, go on to Lambeau Field, and there's no place that I'm more familiar with in the NFL as far as going to a venue and how you got to win. And it's impossible to win if you turn the ball over. We all know that anywhere. But if your offense and defensive line don't play great in Lambeau Field, it's a different type of atmosphere. Man, it's good. Thursday night, it's going to be electric. It's like a high school stadium. When you come in there, you're riding on a bus, and you're like, man, I'm in this small little town. Then you see the lights and everything. It's like, wow. It's like, really, if you build it, they will come. Players are always excited to play there. So we talk about the skilled people, but this is really about the big guys. And the offensive line, especially of the Philadelphia Eagles, if they could take control of this game, if Jason Peters could get back to the way he played a couple seasons ago. Now, he's one of the oldest linemen, him and Whitworth, there with the Rams in the NFL. Can he redeem that? So for me, if I attack him up front, I can keep some pressure off Carson Wentz. I do believe that Alshon Jeffrey is a huge help because he is a first down machine, helps them move the chains, and he's more used to being a number one, him and Zach Ertz, compared to Nelson Aguilar. If you look at the last couple weeks in Atlanta, with the injuries mounting, we need Nelson Aguilar to step up. What does he do? He drops the big pass late in the game. Last week was awful. Him as the leader of that wide receiver group, they dropped 7 passes. It's impossible to win a game. But I'm going to rely on the guys up front, Jenna. We bragged about them. The reason why you picked them as the Super Bowl pick to represent the NFC is not only because of their depth, because of their general manager and their ability to play well, especially in big-time spots. So we're going to be relying on that tonight.
And having Alshon Jeffrey back on a short week is critical because a player that not a lot of people know about, but a lot more people are going to know about him after tonight is second-year corner Jair Alexander. He is playing like an all-pro level corner in year 2 already. He was excellent last year. You would assume, because Jeffrey's back, that Jeffrey will be matched up more with Jair Alexander. Aguilar will get the more beneficial matchup, the one that he's more likely to take advantage of, and he will only have to now be their third option. Number 1 option, probably Zach Ertz. Number 2 option, Alshon Jeffrey. Number 3 option, Nelson Aguilar. But I am really concerned about Philly. A lot of the things that Cris talked about that we took as a given they'd be good at, they haven't been good at. Now, that one of the things Cris didn't mention, but I thought they'd be good at. What about running the football? What about Jordan Howard, who I had been extolling his praises all offseason, that I thought they stole him from Chicago? Well, now you're through 3 weeks. You can see why Chicago was okay letting him go. Miles Sanders, who they went out and drafted. Philly has not had a consistent running game. Now,
and I don't believe it's Jordan Howard either, Nick. I believe it's just like in Chicago. It's the lack of opportunities. Running backs take a rhythm. He's not a scat back. He's a fairly bigger guy. And those guys need rep. Because you can even see in watching the film, there's some times where the offensive linemen were thinking one way and he was reading it a different way. He needs the reps.
He hasn't been able to have a single game where you get 18, 20, 22 carries, which is what you're talking about. He's got 25 carries on the season. During week 1, we joke with our great statistician, Dusty, all the time, but he's a big Eagles fan. During week 1, I texted him when they were down 17-0 to Washington. I was like, what the hell's going on with your team? And his point was an interesting one. He said they have too many weapons, meaning they were trying to get too many different people involved and that you couldn't get anyone a rhythm. Well, that sounded like a good problem until all of a sudden some of the weapons get hurt. You're still not finding a way to get in a rhythm. And defensively, you're not doing what you need to do because for Philadelphia, as you pointed out yesterday, man, it gets really hard coming up. Yes, they get the Jets with a long week to get prepared for them. And then it is 3 consecutive road games against 3 top 5 defenses, Minnesota, Dallas, Buffalo, then a home game against the best defense in football, Chicago, and then New England.
And you got to calculate some injuries in there. And they're already last Wednesday they couldn't practice.
And so if they lose today and they fall to 1-3, how many losses do you have to play with the rest of the year? 2, 3 maximum, with as tough of a 5-game stretch as anyone has in football from week 6 to 11. That is highly concerning. The Packers would love to get to 4-0. The Eagles have to get to 2-2.
Here's why I'm not worried about the Eagles. First of all, they do get Alshon Jeffrey back, which is fine. Look at their last 2 games. They lost them by a combined 7 points. So at least they had an opportunity and they were in it despite having so many injuries. And they're going up against a Packers team who hasn't figured out their offense yet. Is there a way the Packers can win if they don't change their offensive scheme or the success that they've had with that offense?
Well, I think they will make some adjustments. It's only been 3 weeks. When you have the lead at the beginning of the game, especially when you're going against very good defenses where you don't want to take chances. Week number 1, I got to double team Khalil Mack. I'm concerned about Hicks in the middle. So protection-wise, I'm really at a disadvantage. The next week against the Minnesota Vikings, who have always given Aaron Rodgers and that Packers offense a situation because they're so deep, not only at linebacker, as far as their defensive front. And then last week, we have Von Miller, Chubb. Protection is I can't get too fancy in those games. Nick pointed out they've only been behind in
7 minutes this
7
season.
minutes of football. So why do I need to take chances? I'm trying to learn this. I do believe in this game, their third down package will be a little bit better. And sometime when you get a secondary like Philadelphia, you're amazed at how the coaches light up, the players light up, because Philadelphia's secondary, especially with Darby being nicked up, they can be had. So Aaron Rodgers, this could be their breakout game in prime time against that secondary that there are a lot of question marks about the corners.
And this is the first game all year where Rodgers looks across the field and says, okay, I'm going to have to match that quarterback. I'm going to have to, like, when you're looking across to see Mitch Trubisky, you say, I just need not screw this up. When you're looking across and you see Joe Flacco, you make sure it's still 2019 and you say, okay, I got to not screw this up. Now, Cousins, week 1, when it looked like, okay, what Kirk Cousins is this? Rodgers was great early. They're up 21-0, or week 2, I should say, pardon me. But they're up 21-0 instantly, and then the offense, went in hibernation mode. I'm very interested to see if we see a more aggressive Aaron Rodgers, because Carson Wentz, who has played well this year, despite the drops, is the opposing quarterback. And you can't get, I don't believe, a 10-point lead on Philly and just say we're going to coast this car home. If you're going to have to keep accumulating points, because the Philly offense, despite its struggles, still has the ability to be highly explosive.
Is there a coaching element to this? Can the Packers be outcoached by Doug Peterson?
Well, this is the thing. Matt LaFleur, because of that defense, and they've played so well, he's the coach that's not getting criticized. Out of all the new coaches, first-year coaches, man, they're struggling. He's undefeated. Collectively, the rest of them only have 1 win. So I wouldn't get into the coaching matchup right now, because their defensive coordinator has done a tremendous job. That's a team that's led by their defense. But we know that Aaron Rodgers could strike at any moment. Doug Peterson, he's going to have to come up with one of his better coaching jobs, because that offensive line against that defensive front has not been good.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.